My girlfriend, Hannah, and I both hailed from a bustling town with approximately 20,000 inhabitants. Despite attending the same high school, our paths never crossed until a few years post-college. Upon securing a job that demanded extensive travel within the state, I petitioned to work at my hometown's branch to conduct business there, a request which was granted due to the absence of a business representative in that locale. As the months unfolded, I found myself settling into a rhythm, 1 to 2 weeks stationed at the city office, followed by a week in my hometown, interspersed with 1 to 2 weeks traversing the country. After a year elapsed, I made the decision to invest in a house within my hometown's confines. It was at a Friday night gathering that I encountered Hannah. Having just returned from a trip, I found myself engrossed in paperwork at my office when Craig, the managing director and a colleague of mine, sauntered in. Craig and I shared a history, having grown up together, although we attended different high schools. Nevertheless, we forged a close bond over time. Inquiring about my plans, Craig extended an invitation to a house party hosted by his friends that very evening. Despite the short notice, I acquiesced, eager for a bit of conviviality among friends. At the party, Craig introduced me to Hannah, a recent addition to the branch where my hometown's office was located. Instantaneously, we hit it off, and everything seemed to fall into place. Hannah seamlessly integrated into my life, winning the favor of my parents, while her own were elated to see her with someone who brought her joy after weathering tumultuous relationship issues and battling depression. 2 years into our relationship, Hannah made the move to my hometown, taking up residence in the house I had purchased. For nearly a year, everything seemed harmonious, until subtle shifts began to occur. FaceTime sessions grew truncated, or she'd claim to be too preoccupied to answer calls. Rumors circulated from neighbors about a car resembling Craig's, a black Chevy Camaro, spotted near my residence during my absences. Additionally, articles of clothing not belonging to me surfaced in my wardrobe. Despite mounting evidence suggesting infidelity, Hannah vehemently denied any wrongdoing, attributing my suspicions to paranoia. She maintained that Craig occasionally dropped by for business discussions but never stayed overnight. Reluctantly, I brushed aside my misgivings, opting to carry on as though nothing was amiss, though an unsettling sensation lingered. It wasn't until nearly 6 months later that the truth came to light. Having completed a substantial contract ahead of schedule, I decided to surprise everyone by booking an earlier flight home. Upon arriving in my hometown, I noticed Craig's vehicle obstructing the back entrance gate. Puzzled, I approached the house, only to witness a scene that shattered the illusion of my relationship. Hannah and Craig engaged in an intimate encounter in the kitchen. Stunned and crestfallen, I silently retreated, ensuring my departure went unnoticed. Behind the wheel of my car, I grappled with an overwhelming surge of emotions. Tears flowed freely as sadness gradually morphed into seething anger. Though consumed by an intense desire to exact vengeance, I ultimately reconciled with the fact that violence held no place in my ethos. When the decision solidified within me to make them suffer and endure the ruin of their lives, I deemed there was no better moment to commence than the present. Maneuvering my vehicle back up the alley, I maintained a discreet distance from my driveway, ensuring Craig's car was within view. With calculated steps, I retraced my path to the gate, positioning myself to peer into the house as I dialed her phone. The ringing reverberated through the quiet, both of them visibly startled as my name illuminated the caller ID. Observing her contemplation, I witnessed a fleeting inclination to answer, yet they allowed the call to linger before resuming their activities. When the phone rang a second time, her hand hesitantly reached for the device, finally succumbing to the urge to answer. In that fleeting moment, as she began to respond, I terminated the call, retreating swiftly to my car. Barely a beat passed before her return call interrupted the silence, her voice tinged with curiosity as she questioned the late-night call. Crafting a plausible explanation, I conveyed my imminent arrival, veiling my true intentions under the guise of avoiding alarm upon my return. A swift exchange ensued, culminating in a promise of her preparation for my arrival, followed by a swift conclusion to the call as she departed to change. In the aftermath of our conversation, Craig's abrupt departure, hastily donned attire and hurried departure painted a vivid picture of their apprehension. A soft chuckle escaped my lips, a mirthless acknowledgement of their close brush with exposure. Maintaining a calculated vigil, I lingered in the tranquility of the night, waiting the opportune moment to execute the next phase of my plan. It wasn't until the lull of sleep claimed her consciousness that I ventured to my office. Rest eluded me as I sat amidst the darkness, my mind consumed by the intricate details of my meticulously plotted revenge. My mother's teachings, advocating pacifism and the natural course of karma, flickered briefly in my thoughts before being decisively overridden by a newfound resolve. This time, I deemed karma required a nudge in the right direction. I devised a scheme to mete out punishment individually, yet simultaneously ensnare them both in the web of their misdeeds. Acutely aware of Craig's discreet dependency on medication, I stumbled upon the revelation inadvertently, stumbling upon a cachet of powder in his office, feigning ignorance while noting the clandestine nature of his habit. Weeks later, amidst convivial camaraderie and the haze of inebriation, I facilitated his inebriation, ensuring his vulnerable state. Seizing the opportune moment, I secured his compliance to remain the night, absconding with his office keys to execute the next phase of my meticulously crafted plan. With calculated precision, I infiltrated our branch office, unveiling a trove of incriminating evidence concealed within a hidden compartment. Armed with photographic proof and bolstered by the installation of a covert surveillance camera, I meticulously orchestrated the trap, capitalizing on Craig's unwitting vulnerability. During my absence, I ensured Hannah's safety by arranging for her to seek refuge with my parents, leveraging familial ties to orchestrate the final act in my meticulously choreographed revenge. Upon my return, I meticulously orchestrated a facade of surprise regarding the purported break-in, deftly steering the conversation towards the topic I had long awaited, the discretion of security measures in conducting clandestine activities. When Hannah gingerly broached the subject, her demeanor betraying a hint of bashfulness, I discerned the ulterior motives underlying her inquiry. Assured by the security company representative that such inquiries were commonplace, we delved into the intricacies of privacy settings, particularly with regard to safeguarding her modesty. As he guided us through the process of selectively disabling cameras, I seized the opportunity to inquire about potential triggers for notification upon deactivation, citing security concerns. With his assistance, I configured email notifications to circumvent any suspicion that might arise from such actions, ensuring meticulous cover for my impending plan. Capitalizing on Hannah's absence during a routine grocery run, I strategically planted covert surveillance cameras throughout the house, laying the groundwork for the ensuing revelation. Simultaneously, I sought guidance from legal advice communities on Reddit, seeking clarity on the legal implications of my actions and safeguarding against any potential financial claims from Hannah. Grateful for the assistance rendered by a helpful lawyer, I took solace in the affirmation that our relationship, though nearing the 4.5-year mark, fell short of the threshold for a de facto partnership, thereby mitigating any legal repercussions. Further bolstered by the revelation that my promotion to lead the city team was imminent, I commenced the arduous process of transition, a fortuitous development providing a strategic timeframe to execute my meticulously laid plans. Upon my return to my hometown, I embarked upon the final stages of my scheme, leveraging Craig's unwitting cooperation to orchestrate Hannah's departure on a week-long sojourn to a tropical spa resort. Embracing his enthusiasm and securing his assistance in maintaining the surprise, I maneuvered the pieces into place, meticulously concealing my true intentions beneath a veneer of excitement. 2 weeks hence, as I returned, the familiar sight of Craig's car parked outside my residence greeted me, reminiscent of the night I first caught them in their deceit. Opting to maintain a discreet distance, I parked my vehicle a short distance away before scrutinizing the live feeds from the closed-circuit television cameras. Their absence piqued my interest, prompting a swift transition to the footage captured by the covertly installed spy cameras, as well as the concealed surveillance device nestled within the bedside lamp. In the privacy of our bedroom, devoid of any surveillance apparatus, they engaged in their clandestine activities, seemingly unaware of my meticulous documentation of their every move over the preceding fortnight. With resolve steeled, I placed my first call to the authorities, masking my caller identification as I reported suspicious activity unfolding in my vicinity, an anonymous tip intended to cast suspicion upon Craig's alleged involvement in medication dealing. Furnishing the details of his vehicle and a description of the purported activities, I orchestrated a swift response from law enforcement, laying the groundwork for the ensuing revelation. With incriminating evidence meticulously compiled, I disseminated the footage captured by the spy camera, along with photographic evidence to Craig's employer, ensuring the exposure of his illicit activities. Simultaneously, I orchestrated an elaborate ruse, feigning surprise at my imminent return as I anticipated Hannah's impending departure. Though the charade elicited a surge of excitement upon her return, I found myself consumed by the anticipation of the impending revelation. In the ensuing hours, as the pieces of my meticulously orchestrated plan fell into place, I found solace in the knowledge that justice would soon be served, bringing closure to the tumultuous chapter of deceit and betrayal. In our town, strict adherence to medication laws was non-negotiable, with law enforcement vigilant in upholding these regulations. When questioned about the events surrounding Craig's apprehension, I feigned shock and incredulity, denying any knowledge of the unfolding situation. Little did they know, my carefully orchestrated plan had come to fruition, culminating in Craig's arrest with a trove of illicit substances in his possession. As news of the scandal spread throughout the town like wildfire, events of such magnitude rarely remained shrouded in secrecy for long. Craig's swift downfall and subsequent termination from his position reverberated through the community, a testament to the swift and unyielding hand of justice. That evening, I sought solace in confiding in my parents and Hannah's parents, albeit omitting certain details regarding the extent of my involvement. I disclosed my forthcoming relocation to the city following my promotion, a decision that would see me severing ties with Hannah. While initially taken aback by my lack of transparency, they commended my maturity in handling the situation with dignity, refraining from descending to the level of deceit and betrayal exhibited by others. Amidst moments of shared laughter, tears, and solemn contemplation, I bid farewell to my hometown, embarking on a journey of closure and new beginnings. The ensuing days were a flurry of activity as I meticulously organized the logistics of my departure, from arranging cleaners for the vacated premises to liaising with real estate agents to list my house for rent. Upon my return to the city, I awoke to a deluge of missed calls, voicemails, and text messages, indicative of Hannah's abrupt return and subsequent discovery of my departure. Despite her accusations and protests, I remained steadfast in my resolve, finding solace in the knowledge that my actions, however difficult, were necessary for my own well-being and peace of mind. Now, 6 weeks removed from the tumultuous events that precipitated my departure, I find myself content and settled, embracing the promise of new beginnings and the freedom that comes from releasing myself from the shackles of deceit and betrayal. With a mix of anger, betrayal, and a newfound resolve, I meticulously plotted my confrontation, fueled by the desire to expose their deceit and reclaim the dignity that had been stripped away by their callous actions. The following weekend arrived, and with it, the moment of reckoning. Armed with the damning evidence I had unearthed, I made my way to the designated hotel, my heart pounding with a mix of apprehension and determination. As I approached the room, the weight of the impending confrontation bore down upon me, but I refused to falter. With a steady hand and a steely resolve, I knocked on the door, the sound echoing through the hallway like a harbinger of impending revelation. Moments passed like an eternity, until finally, the door swung open, revealing the faces of my wife and her clandestine lover, Louis, frozen in shock and disbelief. In that charged moment, as their gazes met mine, I felt a surge of empowerment wash over me, drowning out the lingering traces of doubt and insecurity. With a voice trembling with suppressed rage, I confronted them, laying bare the extent of their betrayal and deceit. Their feeble attempts at denial and justification fell on deaf ears as I brandished the incriminating evidence before them, each damning message and explicit photo serving as a testament to their treachery. As the truth unraveled before them, I watched with a mixture of satisfaction and sorrow as the facet of their illicit affair crumbled, leaving nothing but the bitter taste of remorse and regret in its wake. In that moment of confrontation, I reclaimed my sense of self-worth and dignity, refusing to be diminished by their deceit. With a final, resolute gaze, I turned away, leaving them to face the consequences of their actions, while I embarked on a journey of healing and self-discovery. Though the pain of betrayal lingered like a bitter aftertaste, I found solace in the knowledge that I had confronted the demons of infidelity head on, emerging from the ashes stronger and more resilient than ever before. And as I walked away from that fateful encounter, I knew that, in confronting the truth, I had taken the first step towards reclaiming my life and forging a brighter, more authentic future for myself and my children. Like it's not what it looks like and I can explain, but I didn't want to hear any of it. I handed her the stack of Facebook screenshots, each page a damning testament to her betrayal and deceit. As she sifted through the evidence, her facade crumbled, revealing the depth of her duplicity. Amidst tears and accusations, I stood my ground, refusing to be swayed by her futile attempts at justification. With a sense of finality, I handed her the separation agreement crafted by my lawyer, outlining the terms of our impending divorce and the arrangements for our children's custody. As the reality of her actions set in, I watched with a mixture of sadness and resentment as she grappled with the consequences of her betrayal. In that moment of confrontation, I reclaimed my sense of agency and self-worth, refusing to be diminished by her deceit. Though the pain of betrayal lingered like a shadow, I found solace in the knowledge that I had confronted the truth head-on, reclaiming control over my life and forging a path towards healing and renewal. In the aftermath of the confrontation, I leaned on the support of my family and friends, finding strength in their unwavering solidarity. And as I moved forward, I vowed to never allow myself to be blindsided by deception again, determined to build a future grounded in honesty, integrity, and self-respect. In the aftermath of our confrontation, emotions ran high, swirling in a tumultuous storm of anger, betrayal, and sorrow. As I stood before her, holding the divorce papers and the damning evidence of her infidelity, I felt a mix of determination and heartache. It wasn't about arguing or assigning blame. It was about facing the truth and taking decisive action. Handing her the documents and the printed out texts, I made it clear that there was no turning back. Her reaction was a flurry of tears and frantic pleas, a desperate attempt to salvage her professional reputation and parental image. But deep down, we both knew that she had brought this upon herself. As she wept, her parents stood by silently, their own tears betraying their sorrow and disappointment. It was a moment fraught with conflicting emotions, a silent acknowledgement of the shattered dreams and broken promises that lay before us. With a heavy heart, I insisted that she sign the papers and vacate the house when she came to collect her belongings. There was no room for negotiation or reconciliation. The trust had been irrevocably broken. As I turned to leave, I couldn't help but feel a sense of grim satisfaction at the sight of Louis and his wife downstairs, their world crumbling around them. The divorce proceedings were a bittersweet victory, marked by tears and courtroom drama. Yet, amidst the chaos, a sense of relief washed over me as I emerged with primary custody of the children and ownership of the family home. It was a fresh start, a chance to rebuild and redefine our future on my own terms. As I settled into my new life, the atmosphere around the house shifted, echoing with the absence of her presence. The once vibrant living room now felt like a deserted island, a stark reminder of the life we once shared. Yet, amid the echoes of the past, I found a glimmer of hope for the future, a promise of better days ahead. And so, as I move forward, I do so with a sense of determination and resilience, knowing that I have overcome adversity and emerged stronger than before. Though she may continue to call and plead for reconciliation, I remain steadfast in my resolve never to take her back. For in the ashes of our broken marriage, I have found the strength to forge a new path, one filled with hope, healing, and the promise of a brighter tomorrow. While navigating through the aftermath of our divorce, I stumbled upon some advice about the concept of the 180, which advocated for civility and a bit of distance rather than complete avoidance. Reflecting on my behavior, I realized that ignoring her entirely wasn't the right approach, and it left me feeling like I was the one in the wrong. Despite maintaining a courteous demeanor, suspicions lingered whenever she showed vulnerability, questioning whether it was genuine or merely a performance. As for my feelings towards my ex, they've evolved into a state of indifference. Her occasional visits to see the kids are marred by attempts to salvage our marriage, insisting that it was all a mistake. However, any lingering affection I had for her vanished after reading the hurtful messages exchanged during her affair. She's become a mere shadow of the person I once loved. and I view her now as a burden that needs to be cast aside before it tarnishes my life further. Meanwhile, Louis, her partner in infidelity, faced the consequences of his actions, losing his job and facing scrutiny in his divorce proceedings. Despite his attempts to shift blame onto me, I brushed off his accusations, knowing that karma had caught up with him. As for my ex, her situation seems dire, living with Louis in a toxic environment where blame and misery abound. While I extend occasional kindness by letting her stay overnight, I do so cautiously, mindful of setting boundaries. On a brighter note, I've begun to explore new romantic possibilities, finding companionship in a wonderful woman I met at a friend's party. She brings a breath of fresh air into my life, and our relationship has blossomed over the past 2 months. While I keep her identity private, her presence has brought much needed joy and stability. Despite my ex's persistent pleas and delusions of reconciliation, I remain firm in my resolve to move forward. Her dreams of rekindling our family are nothing more than wishful thinking, as I've closed that chapter of my life for good. A few weeks down the road, I receive an unexpected call from my lawyer's office, informing me of a startling development. My ex-wife is attempting to reopen our case, alleging that she's pregnant with my child. The news leaves me bewildered because it's simply not feasible. Our relationship had long been distant even before the divorce proceedings. It's evident she's fabricating this claim, likely in a desperate bid to salvage our relationship, though I can't fathom how a pregnancy would aid in reconciliation. Seeking solace and advice, I confide in my friends, who offer reassurance, dismissing her assertion as a last-ditch effort to win me back. It becomes increasingly apparent that this purported pregnancy is more likely linked to Louis, the man she's currently residing with. My lawyer, equally unperturbed, advises me to remain calm, assuring me that she would need a paternity test to substantiate her claims. With a heavy heart and a firm resolve, I make the difficult decision to confront her, ultimately asking her to leave. I make it clear that if she wishes to see the children, it will be at her residence, and she is not to return to mine. Despite her protests and accusations, I stand my ground, unwavering in my decision. In a surprising turn of events, Louis's wife reaches out to me, revealing that they've reconciled and are planning to reunite. Sensing an opportunity to escape her troubles, my ex informs them of her alleged pregnancy, hoping to secure Louis's support. However, he wastes no time in disassociating himself from her, opting to return to his family, leaving her to face the consequences of her actions alone. While I can't help but empathize with her predicament, I recognize that she brought this upon herself through her deceitful actions. As I contemplate moving forward, I consider the prospect of marrying my supportive girlfriend, envisioning a fresh start in a new place far away from the tumultuous events of the past.